experience, but because of the way that it all sort of gosh, has it been 2 years or a year?
Yes.
When it first started, there wasn't necessarily time for auditions.
Right.
So it was directors just being like, you, come on, and you just got the call and you were in it and you were doing it. I think now that is more the norm to just cast and not have auditions. But every once in a while, there's some time, or there's some new directors, or we really just need to find a new crop of actors, find some fresh voices to get in there, and so they'll have another round of auditions, and more people will get an opportunity to act.
Or if it's a super high-profile property, they'll have auditions for that particular one.
Yeah, sorry, that you made me think of something else, because sometimes I remember I had an audition for, I think it was Dimension W, and I think like Sony or somebody like in California had to approve my voice, and there's certain shows, like Love Live, for example, where all of our voices had to be approved by someone not at Funimation.
That's what happened with Space Dandy. The Japanese director approved the English voice cast, which was strange.
Space was like that too, way back.
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese will have their hands in everything we do, generally, when it comes to, like, writing the scripts, doing, like, casting the shows. They'll be checking for pronunciations, like, are we pronouncing everything correctly, and terminology, are we using that correctly, are we getting the feel of the show right? So, like, they really like to make sure that the quality that they expect is what we are putting out. Another thing too, and like kind of to expand on the whole audition thing, one of the reasons why there's not really any time for that now is, like I said, we write a script within a week for this episode, and they have about a week and a half to 2 weeks to record it. If they're lucky. And auditions will generally take a director 3 to 4 full days. Full work days, 8-hour days of auditioning people, because we have a talent pool of about 300 people, if not more. And that's just for Funimation, and that's just local.
And that's that's not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Tell them how many shows we're doing this season.
27. And that's probably, especially now that we have the Crunchyroll deal, that's pretty much going to be the norm. Not every single one of them is going to get a broadcast dub, because there's only so many of us.
Yeah, 18 broadcast dubs, the rest are DVD shows.
To put that in perspective, before all of this happened, we might have been working on like 9 at a time, and it's jumped to 27. Like, yeah, when you think about it like that, I mean, it's crazy.
But
So
it's pretty cool because it's given us all a lot of new opportunities.
of course.
And I think, I mean, you and I both have started directing. There's a lot of new directors, a lot of new writers. So it's been really cool. But yeah, sometimes it can make you pretty funny.
My last trip alone, because I live in Austin, I'm not in the DFW area, I think in 2 days I did 5 voices, and that's new. That's unusual.
We love you, Jason.
Love you, Jason.
I'm just so,
5 yen coin.
Yeah. Another question? Anyone? Yes, sir. Red cap.
Nice to meet you. I'm also from Austin too. Used to live at Ben White at Manchaca or Manchac, whichever way you want to call it.
Right. You can pronounce it correctly or like we do.
Yeah, whatever way. Just a hypothetical question. If Funimation was able to get Hollywood actors to come over and do a voice-over, who would y'all pick, each of y'all? Like, let's just say James Earl Jones would say, hey, I want to come do it one time.
Tom Hiddleston.
She said,
Mark Hamill. Mark freaking Hamill, please. So I can stalk him. He's already a voice actor, yeah, but
I
he's
mean,
a
I will
Hollywood.
say that for Mass Effect, we got Freddie Prinze Jr. Woo, that was my my 6 degrees from Buffy. Anyways, I was excited about that. Yeah. But I would have to say Benedict Cumberbatch.
I want Clancy Brown.
Yeah, I'm gonna say another dude. Sorry, Steve Martin's my favorite actor. He started to do voiceover stuff, so just so I could see him and touch him.
That's intimate.
Yeah.
Frank Welker.
We should go down the road
It's too
again
late.
and voice women.
Yes.
So me, Kate Winslet. I've always been a big fan of her. I always love her. I think she's lovely.
Frank Welker.
Micah, you go last.
And don't give me the mic.
It's not all a joke, man.
I would say these are the two that Natalie Portman. I love her, and Viola Davis. Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I knew really would have to be separated.
Patti Smith.
I can't think of one. Next question.
Betty White.
That's great. That's a great one.
Drop the mic.
If she'd make the trip. No. If she'd make the trip.
We've
All
only
right.
got 2 of them.
Red hair.
So you're saying there's any difference in like how you guys
The question, for those who couldn't hear the question, was that we've noticed any difference in how we come up with like character voices while we're recording because we're having to record so fast.
Or character development,
One character development.
since it's quick.
Like before this, we would do 6 episodes at a time. Like the writers would spend about a month to a month and a half writing, 6 or 7 episodes for a show. The directors would get that and they would do all of those episodes in one big chunk. So you might come in and have even an 8-hour day recording, and you'd just be doing that one character for several different episodes. So you get that gave you the opportunity to actually kind of see where the character was going to start to go, and really gave you a lot of time to really sink your teeth in and figure out the voice and the character, like where they are as a person. Now, and sometimes we would even, like by the time we got to the 2nd or 3rd episode, that's when we would really start to find the voice, and we might go back to one of the first episodes and re-record some things to fall in line with where we eventually ended up. We don't have that opportunity now.
I think in terms of finding the voice, I think one of the reasons that all of us up here at least continuously get work is because we're trained actors, and so that is something that we have learned to do. We've learned to develop a character in a short amount of time, find a voice, work with the director. That is part of the job. But one thing that I have noticed with character development in terms of the story arc, sometimes that is a little bit more difficult because these shows are coming out so quickly on the heels of Japan, of them releasing it overseas, that a lot of times the directors aren't able to watch the full show.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old days, when we were doing, or even now when we do DVD dubs still, the directors have those materials all up front. And with the simulcast dubs, they don't always have it. So sometimes, we'll run into plot points that we didn't know about when we started, and it changes everything. And so I think it's made the director's job a lot more difficult because they're not able to inform us as much.
And sometimes
as
they don't
are.
even, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please.
Sometimes they don't even know if a character is going to be that prominent or not.
Yes, yeah.
You be cast as something and they think it's just a one-off and whatever, and then suddenly you become a lead. That happens a lot, and I want to say Eva Green and Gillian Anderson.
Or vice versa, you get cast as a lead and then you get killed like in episode 3, and they're like, see you next show, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm done. But I'd actually, my answer would differ from Josh's because as somebody who acts and does not direct at Funimation, I never see the whole show of anything that I'm called in for. I only see moments ahead of the line that I'm about to record. So there really is no character arc in my mind when I arrive to record. You're leaning on the director. The director is the one who's informing you of, no, this is, maybe you record a line and they say, no, this is how your character is feeling in this moment, or this is where they're about to go with that. So the burden lies on the director to have that big picture view and make sure that arc is visible, because as an actor you're called in, you hear the beeps before you record the line, but you may not know, a lot of times you don't have an opportunity to watch the show even in Japanese before you arrive, so.
There's a lot of cold reading.
Yeah,
It's all
Right.
cold reading.
A lot of cold reading. That's the majority of this job, actually. I was going to say, how many of you have heard of a show called Blood Blockade Battlefront?
And now you have to say it 10 times fast.
The broadcast of a Blood Blockade Battlefront. Yeah. The character that I played in that was an anime original character. So he shows up in episode 1, and in script they called him Boy in Black. He ended up being the main antagonist of the show. So, and we didn't know. Mike, he was just like, I'm gonna cast you to be safe, but for a while we were actually guessing, is he actually a girl? We don't know. That actually happened in another broadcast that I was doing where we recorded the first episode, and halfway through, the episode that just went up that day revealed that that character that I was voicing was actually a woman, and I was recast. So with the broadcast dubs, there is a lot of unknown, a lot of guesswork, and I think that's the biggest thing, not having the materials ahead of time or information online about the show. I think it's a shot in the dark, really.
And that kind of presents a major challenge for people that are just now that are just starting to get into this. Because before, when we were doing just DVD dubs, directors could actually take the opportunity to bring in some newer people and try them out on some bit parts, or maybe on our supporting role, something that was a little bit larger, to not only see if they could work out or handle that, but also just give them more booth experience. But now, since we don't know whether or not a bit part's actually going to end up being a lead or something, they're less willing to take that chance, and it's making it harder and harder for new people to actually come in.
And for those that aren't in the Metroplex itself, they were super leery when it initially started to even cast people who have significant credits, because
Talk about Noragami.
well, Noragami, basically, one of the producers called me, and they were gonna recast it because the first season was DVD release, right? Well, he called me up and he told me what they needed, and initially he thought, it was Zach, he thought they would need me every week, and they didn't know, if it was gonna be, he said he could give me a 3-hour minimum, which isn't enough to make it economically viable.
Because
frankly.
the second season was broadcast dub, so everything, the
Right.
recording style was completely different from the first season.
Right. And ultimately we reached a compromise, and I didn't want to give the character up, obviously. He's one of my favorite characters, and it worked out. I'm up there a lot more these days.
Yeah.
I've seen this really, really beautiful drive many, many, many times.
Oh, the beauties of I-35 construction.
Yes.
There was another last year when we did the broadcast dub for Attack on Titan Junior High. Titan Muppet Babies. Matt Mercer and pretty much like Matt Mercer, Lauren Landa, Bryce Papenbrook, all those guys, they're all LA actors. There's no possible way that they could make it out. Yeah, Ashley Birch. There's no way that they could make it out every single week. Fly from because they would make no money. They would have taken a loss doing that. But luckily, we had the ability. There was a local studio that they could go to, and they actually patched them in and recorded over Skype for a couple of those sessions.
The Tales of Hysteria dub that is an anime adaptation of a video game. Me, Ian Sinclair, and Caitlin Glass were the only Texas actors in the video game. The entire thing was recorded in Los Angeles. But Funimation got the rights to the anime adaptation. So that was really confusing because you have this imbalance, with Attack on Titan, there were a lot of lead roles that were from California, and with Tales of Hysteria, it was just the three of us, and there's like 8 or 9 other people that were LA based. And so because it was a broadcast dub, it posed this very interesting challenge, and Tyler, the director, only directed like the bit. He was in charge of bits and Walla and like roles that were in the anime that were not in the video game, and then me, Ian, and Caitlin. But everyone else was directed by another director in Los Angeles, and so it was sort of this. Well, I don't know what they're gonna do. Could be a completely different style. Hope it works out. You just never know when you get 2 voices in there. But it ended up working out just fine. But we never had to split like that. Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely presented a lot of unique challenges, these broadcast dubs, simulcast dubs, sorry.
That's the name?
I guess.
It's simuldubs now.
Simuldubs.
Simuldub is the copyrighted term.
Oh yeah, it's
Simuldub.
trademarked. Yeah, that's crazy.
Does anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
Do you ever have to do multiple characters per episode?
Sometimes. That depends on it.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't happen that regularly, but on a few properties, I personally have.
You said you were like you, so there was not enough people to start this whole thing. So.
Right.
Oh, we don't.
Oh, I don't think that's what I meant necessarily. I just meant like they were choosing veteran, what we call veteran. I don't know why we use that term, but that's what we call them, veteran. Like they were like, okay, these are the people. Like we're just gathering our troops for this.
Specifically for lead roles, not to fill like every single, you know, we have plenty of people to fill the roles, but I think what she was mostly referring to was the casting for the lead roles in the shows. And I know that when we play lead roles, they try not to have us do too many other things because we do have such a prevalent voice in the show, you know, people are hearing us a lot more, but if we're just like, you know, a supporting character that's in there for 2 episodes and then gets killed or leaves or whatever, then it's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna skip ahead to, you know, another script, and especially if it's a DVD dub, and be like, oh yeah, like, I want you to play, like, a little boy and this little group of boys that are playing basketball on the, you know, that's just one line, or,
There's
you know.
it's usually not in the same episode, but sometimes in the same season. That's what I found.
I have had one experience that's an exception to this, and that's D. Gray Man.
Oh,
Where,
yeah.
I was initially cast as Lavi, but I lobbied to be Millennium Earl. That's the role I really wanted. So they said that I could have that as long as I did the one they wanted me to play.
Yeah. Oh, me
And-
too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock on.
I had one line in season 1 before they decided to broadcast the new D. Gray Man, Hollow. And because I had like one throwaway line, I was credited as that character, and Chubbs was like, well, I'm gonna cast you anyway in this new season, you're a bad guy. So yeah, I ended up playing 2 characters in that too.
D. Gray Man. Any other questions? Yes, Michael?
Back. Oh, okay. We'll get inside. Yeah.
Danny, you're next.
Oh wait, no, first, then you. Yes.
You go ahead.
You
Sorry.
got it figured out, sorry.
No worries. You all have done excellent work. How does it feel to take part in like classic series? Like, I'm a big fan of Beck, and I feel that's one of the best shows across any genre. I wish more people would like check it out.
Yeah.
But
That was a great show.
you all are great. So how does it feel when you're part of something special? Do you know it instantaneously, or you have to wait to get the feedback?
I mean, it definitely goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Just kidding. Yeah, sometimes we get a show and we know it's going to be a big deal because it's a big deal in Japan and fans are waiting for it to get dubbed, and so we come in to start it and they're like, the show's going to be a big deal. And then some shows you record and you just didn't see it coming, and it becomes so popular, and that's so fun because it's a nice surprise. But either way, we're all grateful. We're so grateful to do what we do, and it's really exciting when you get good feedback, of course.
Also, when something takes off, I mean, that's an awesome feeling, honestly. And sometimes they put a lot of money and a big push into something they think is going to be huge, and then it ends up not going anywhere. That's also pretty interesting. Where you're like, wow.
Well, and then when we did the redub for Escaflowne, that was terrifying because it was like, here's this show that it was a lot of people's gateway anime, back in the 90s, and even though the anime industry has come so far in terms of, overall storytelling and animation style and technology and just overall presence, this show has still, stood the test of time beautifully. And so when and I had friends in middle school that liked Escaflowne. So I knew, I'd never seen it, but I knew what it was when we got the rights. And so it was, as Sunny, the director, put it, we are fighting the nostalgia factor. But at the same time, it's like we have included the original dub on, so you actually have 3 options on the DVD when it comes out. The new dub, the old dub, and the original Japanese. So yeah, because we wanted to honor both of the originals, But no, that was terrifying because everyone going in, like even if we hadn't seen it, knew it was a really big deal, and we were also redubbing something, which is very unusual. So that was insane. But that's a very, that's not something that happens very often, so.
Yeah, to speak to about being on a classic, I think for me and probably for some of you guys, when we came in, even if we didn't know about like all of anime, we knew about some of the big ones, like Dragon Ball Z and One Piece and things like that. And so I've never been on Dragon Ball Z, but when I got to do the game, that was like, it was just a really cool moment for me. And then the same for One Piece, because it is a classic, and it is something that like so many people know about, so it felt special. But then sometimes, patience is a virtue. And I can speak to that about Michiko and Hachin, because it came out in Japan, and then like it wasn't even really, we didn't dub it for like 4 years until over here, and then we dubbed it, and like Monica who plays Michiko and I play Hachin, Monica Real, we're out there like at every convention like pushing this. We're like, this is really good, because it was one that we knew was special while we were doing it, even if we didn't know anyone else would think it was special. We felt it. It was a very unique one, and then, you know, 2 years after that, it was on Toonami. So, I mean, you just kind of just go back to, you don't know sometimes. But I think you can feel when it's special. Like, those are the moments that I can speak to.
Ben.
Is it difficult to do songs off that stuff so that you might rock?
Yes. For those of you in the back that couldn't hear, he's asking about dubbing music for the simulcast dubs. And Show by Rock is a great example. In the first season of Show by Rock, we had to dub we didn't have to, but we had the time because they didn't have materials associated with them. There was an in-episode song that the girls are just singing a cappella. You know, it's just sort of like this very sweet scene of friendship. And so we did that because we didn't have to get any materials from Japan, but we were not able to dub the opening and closing songs or the concert pieces because those had materials that we needed to Japan to send us, you know, the karaoke materials, if you will. But Show by Rock, the first season, comes out in a couple of months, I think. But we have gone back and redubbed the songs. So it's, when we're able to revisit these broadcast dubs, simulcast dubs for the DVD release, we do have time and we do have materials to go back and do those things if Japan will let us. They don't always let us dub songs. So yeah, but that's been interesting, and Love Live was unusual because those are real girls in Japan. Same thing with, you know, the first Love Live and the second Love Live. Those are anime adaptations of real girls who are on tour with those songs. So the reason those songs weren't dubbed is because those are very heavily copyrighted, because those girls are actually idols. So yeah, it's most of it's a time constraint, and licensing. So if we no longer have the time constraint and licensing is a go, then we will go back and dub the songs. But yeah,
Sometimes
those turnarounds are too quick sometimes.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't, like, for no reason, I don't really see with that, but like, we finished that dub and it took a year to get licensing for the music to be able to record it. And then, but there's more and more music I've been noticing, and sometimes it usually is a matter of time, because I know for Honda-kun, we are going to go back and do that song, but there was just no time for it. If you haven't seen Honda-kun, it is a broadcast dub that is, I think is it over, or is it?
It finished yesterday.
It finished yesterday, but y'all, it's so funny.
It's great.
If you're looking for some good laughs, but that one, and then Puzzle and Dragon. My character sings in that, and I think the first time,
Yeah, she's like an idol. She doesn't just sing, she's a pop idol.
the first time it was like, oh, this is just like a cut to like this, like we'll do it. But the second time she sang something, I was like, no, we're gonna have like we had to wait for that one. So I think we're gonna have to go back and do that one. But I kind of like it that there's more music, but sometimes it does take longer to figure that logistics out for that.
5 minutos.
Another question, we have 5 minutes.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, you sir.
Are you guys planning on dubbing Mob Psycho 100?
Could you a little bit louder? Sorry.
Are you planning on dubbing Mob Psycho 100?
Funimation's planning to dub that. We didn't know anything because we're pawns.
I don't like that.
It's true, Jake.
I know it's true. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
You guys are these
Okay, your language better. Mission.
If Funimation acquires the rights to any show, they will make an announcement about it. So if it has not been announced, then we have no idea.
They have a big sign at the desk that we check in at for us not to say anything about anything until it's officially announced.
Yeah, that's another thing. If it's not on the internet, we can't talk about it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Unofficially, is there any particular role that you guys are wanting to dub in the future?
any role we want to dub in the future that we can't talk about? Well, there are so many.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, a lot. Freaking NDAs. 4 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Stay tuned next week.
Yes.
Is it okay if I bring something up here for you guys to sign?
Can we wait till the autograph session?
We'll say what our autograph times are when we're done.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. Yeah.
Well, because I will be here on Sunday.
Okay, well, we got one later today. Yeah, we have one later
today. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you've mentioned several instances where within a season of broadcast Dub, you've gone back and redubbed something.
Yeah.
How much change or how much redubbing happens if that goes to a printed DVD? Do you get called back quite often for that to clean things up, etc.?
Well, it depends.
Just so I understood the question, are you talking about stuff like going back and redubbing stuff, like for a DVD that we did for a broadcast?
Right. Do you often do that?
Yeah, we'll do that sometimes. Because a lot of times too, the materials that we'll be working with for the broadcast are actually not the final animation. Because a lot of times the Japanese, the animators will be on such a hard deadline that they'll actually be animating the show the day that there's finishing the animation the day it's supposed to be broadcast. So they have to cut a lot of corners. Sometimes they don't have complete background art. Sometimes character flaps won't. They're not. Generally, they never really match the characters are saying, but sometimes they're just completely off. So
This character was talking when they weren't talking before.
right. So sometimes after they finish the full broadcast run of a show, they'll go back and they'll clean up animation. They'll make more complete background art, or just completely new background art, or they'll add scenes. They'll take away scenes. So we will have to go back and do that for the final video.
So let's go down the line and say when we have autographs today and tomorrow.
Micah goes last.
Micah goes last.
Rule of thirds, guys.
Start down there.
Oh, don't start with me. I have to look it up. I'll start at the other end.
I have 3:30 to 4:30 today.
I guess I'm with you.
I have 8 to 9 p.m. tonight for autographs and 1 to 2 tomorrow for autographs.
Me too.
Me too.
I have 6:30 to 7:30 autographs today, and also 1 to 2 autographs tomorrow.
Okay, so we're all
Yeah, and I'm
I guess we're all together tomorrow.
Yep.
Kate's with
6:30.
Okay, so
Thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope that we answered your questions. And if you haven't checked out the simulcast subs, please do.
And if you're interested in what shows are being, I'm so sorry. Oh, you're talking. Okay, I'm sorry. If you're interested at all in what the broadcast dubs are for this season, there is a full list, including the release dates for them, on the Funimation website or the Funimation blog. Just type in Funimation simul dub season or broadcast dub season, and you'll find it. Thank you guys so much.
A lot of us are back here in this room at 2 o'clock for Inside the Voice Actors
yes, I
Studio.
think we all are.
yeah.
So we hope to see you back here 1 hour from now. Let's all go eat lunch together.